Hello, everyone. Good morning, evening, afternoon, as the case may be. Welcome. Glad you could be here today. I see people are starting to join in, so I'll give that a couple minutes and check the chat. If you'd like to put your name and where you're watching from in the chat, that would be really great. We have a big topic today, one that all of us can relate to at some point in our life. We all experience fear, and fear is something that really controls our life. It can paralyze us. And, a lot of times there's good reason to have fear, but I think most of the time, the fears we experience are, they're exaggerated fears, usually caused by impressions that we've had of past experiences. And when we come up against a similar sort of situation in life that it resonates with that past fear, and so the mind brings that back up again, and we start to re-experience, that past fear that might have been so strong, but we re-experience it, through in the current situation. And so this is something that happens to us all the time. And sometimes, I think that, if we think about why do some fears really get exaggerated? And I think for us who are meditators, that when we meditate, we create a vacuum inside. We're sort of letting go of a lot of things, especially through the heartfulness cleaning process, where we're letting go a lot of the past impressions. And that creates a vacuum within us. And so we know in the cleaning, it's very important at the end of the cleaning that we take time to feel that we're being filled up, coming in from the front with this beautiful, divine light. Divine lightness is filling us up from within and filling up that vacuum that's created. But sometimes we don't always remember to do that part of it. So I find that when we come up against certain situations in life that create just even a small fearful feeling, that sometimes that small feeling expands in us because we've created an openness inside, and that fear expands and looks to be bigger than it really is. So it expands in our mental space, and it seems bigger than life. So a lot of times we're facing fears that are exaggerated fears. That's basically what I'm trying to say. A lot of fears are exaggerated fears. So where does fear come from? Where did this start? Why is there fear? Well, I was, many decades ago when I first was reading a book called Truth Eternal. There's a chapter in here that sort of talks about the origin of fear. And this is a book written by Ramchandra, or as we know him, Lalaji. Here's the book, Lalaji, who was the founding spiritual guide of this heartfulness path, heartfulness method. And, this book was it's very hard to read. I mean, especially maybe just for me being a Westerner, there's a lot of Indian terminologies and things that I really didn't understand. And I got to say, Daji has really done an amazing job at clarifying a lot of this and simplifying a lot of Lalaji's writings, and that really helps us. But there's a chapter here called Death, Withdrawal of the Soul. And in the first paragraph, it addresses how this original fear came into existence. So I'm going to read this, and it might be a little hard to follow, but then let me just give you my take on it, okay? What was there in the beginning? There was indescribable and indefinable darkness surrounded by darkness. There was a stir. The veil of darkness fell down, and it took the shadow of wonder in its womb. Time was born out of it, which was an embodiment of shadow and darkness in a circular form. It looked hither and thither and said, I am. The word I was created from that time onwards. It feared, and fear started from that time on. Fear is created from the illusion of estrangement along with I-ness. It then thought, there is none else except myself. Why do I fear unnecessarily? Fear disappeared. Fear vanishes by thinking, as it does even now. It saw the original and desired that it should also expand like the original. It is the beginning of desire, which originated from that being. It began to grow in it, and from then on it was called Brahman. Okay, so I know that's a lot to take in. Okay, and to be honest with you, I don't really understand all of this. I could, spend a couple of months really diving into it. Perhaps when I see Daji, I will ask for some further clarifications on this chapter. But I have thought about it a lot over the years, parts of it, and that's what I want to share with you now. Basically, I think we have to look at this in a broader sense. It's he's talking about some cosmic events. He's talking about things that are, I think, they're kind of representational of whatever was happening in the beginning, the birth of consciousness. Okay, so when I read this and I see that this first stir or awakening, the original awakening that happened as a stir. Okay, now when we think about this stir, let's put it like this. When you think about how you wake up in the morning, okay, now we've had a whole night where our consciousness is withdrawn from our senses, from our sensory apparatus, is resting in a soul state. Okay, and in the state of deep sleep, we don't even know where we exist. We have no consciousness. Even though consciousness is there, we have no awareness of it. Okay, now just think about how we wake up in the morning. Doesn't something stir? Doesn't something sort of stir in us? And then we kind of, oh, yeah, wait a minute. Oh, here I am. So every morning when we come out of deep sleep, there's a stir. Something stirs, and our awareness in our consciousness, awareness of our consciousness returns. That stir, or talks about circular form or circular movement. He's talking about a particular movement. When our awareness moves, time is born. So as soon as we stir into the awareness back in our senses again, our senses are all time-based. Sensory apparatus is entirely time-based. So we are stirring and awakening into the field of time again. And when we're in the field of time, conscious awareness is there. We are aware of our consciousness. Now, so it says, when that stir happened, it looked hither and thither and said, I am. All right, now, the word I was created from that time onwards. It feared, and fear started from that time on. All right, so let me talk about this part. Again, I think a lot of this is representational, okay? That when this primal awareness arose and time was born and it realized its awareness, its I am. It realized that it was separate from the original, and it feared. And I'm going to just continue on with this. So the word I was created from that time onwards. It feared, and fear started from that time on. Now here's the clincher here. Fear is created from the illusion of estrangement along with I-ness. Fear is created from the illusion of estrangement along with I-ness. Okay, so let me give you a practical example of this in our material life. Is when a baby is born, what happens? The baby comes out, suddenly, oh, it's in a completely different environment. It's not in the safety and protection of the womb where it was one with its mother. So when the baby is born, now the baby is shocked by its own awareness. It realizes it has its identity separate from the source from which it came. And the baby cries. If we've ever seen the first cry of a baby, we know that, wow, it's frightened, it's frightened of its own separateness. So there's an illusion of separateness from the mother. We're all really connected, okay, still with the source. But when we wake up as individual entities, okay, we feel a sense of separation, which is what Lalaji talks about as being illusory. So we have an illusory sense that we're separate from our source. Then he says, there was a realization, there is none else except myself. Why do I fear unnecessarily? Fear disappeared. Okay, so now it's almost like a realization. There's a realization or an enlightenment moment of, oh, wait, there's none else except me, and I am that origin from which I came. Why should I fear? And fear vanishes. Isn't it great? I mean, this is such a wonderful, illuminating paragraph from Lalaji. It really helps us to understand what is the origin of fear, is the illusion of being estranged from our source or center. And our entire spiritual journey is about the realization that we're not. That we are that. We are that. We are the divine, luminous, giant beings of divinity ourselves. We are. And so why do we fear? Why do we fear? But yet we do. Okay? So we're caught up in this illusion. And the thing that's happened now is this is metamorphosed into a lot of little fears. Now, as our identity has sort of, our self-identity has become very complicated. And actually, we have very many self-identities that have, sprung up within us. So our identity has become very complicated. And now our fears have become very complicated because now everything's broken up into pieces and parts. So now there's different parts of my I-ness that are being fearful of different parts of the, things that I'm experiencing or things that I'm seeing or situations that I'm in or people I might interact with that cause me to be fearful. So this idea of fear has become very complex, along with our mind becoming very complex. And now, we all hear about, and I love this word that someone's coined, FOMO, fear of missing out. And this is in relationship to our obsession with our I self. I call this the I self. I do. So our relationship with the I self this is our, this is the thing that has taken over our consciousness in a way, okay? Because we're always rushing to our phone, to our sense of connection, our illusory connection, okay? This has become our replacement source. And when we have to keep interacting with it so that we feel a sense of, connection, a sense of being a part of. And if we don't, then we start to have a fear of missing out. Oh, wow. Oh, wait, check my phone. I rushed to my phone. Wait a minute. Nobody's texted me. Oh, what's happened? What am I missing out? Or this person hasn't gotten back with me. What are they doing? I'm missing out. It's the I self. This is our little drama that has played out now with the technology that we've created. So now we have become the creator, right? And now we've created something that is another self, right? That we interact with. And when it's not responding as it should, then we have fear. So it's this crazy thing that we humans have done. So, but look, this is a big deal. On a serious side, this is really a big deal, because when we place so much of our dependency on this illusory sense of connectedness with other people, it creates anxiety, and we're anxious. We're anxious for the latest piece of news. We're anxious for the latest connection. We're anxious for the latest text. We're anxious for the latest email. We're anxious to get to our phone and check. This is anxiety. So, as wonderful as this and beautiful as this amazing technology is, it has introduced in our society at a very core level this FOMO, and which creates a feeling of anxiety. And that's really detrimental to us in the long run, because we place so much importance on that sense of connection. And in a way, it shows us a couple of things. It shows us just how far away we've gone from our own source, and is brought to light, why so many people are longing. The people of the world are longing for a real connection. People are longing for the real fullness of the heart, the real inner connection with our source, which is none other than our own self. And we've so disconnected from it. And now, these things we call anxiousness, and fear and stress and all these things, they're all because of, in my opinion, they're all because we're longing for the one single feeling of connection that brings us home again. And those two voices in our head, when we have such a grand realization that I am that source from which I came, then we call that realization. And those two dissenting voices that are always in our head, the one voice that tells us, oh, I really would like to try this something new in my life. I think I want to take up a new job. And then the other voice that immediately comes in that is the dissenting voice saying, oh, no, you can't do that. You don't have the skills, and you'd have to study. You have to go back to school. There's these two voices that are always sabotaging one another. One is the hopeful voice, the voice of aspiration, and the other voice is the voice of dissension. It's the voice of hopelessness. It's the voice of, anxiety. It's the voice of you can't. We have the voice of you can, and we have the voice of you can't. And realization is when we finally have connected with the real source within, and those two voices go away. And now there's only one. I am what I am. This is the objective. This is what we're all trying to find. We're trying to connect to home base again. This is why we meditate. This is why we do this practice called cleaning, where we let go of the fears from the past, from the experiences we've had from the past. We let go of our likes and dislikes. And when we meditate, especially together, we really feel it. At the end of that meditation, isn't there such a wonderful feeling? Don't you feel you're at home? Doesn't it feel like oneness? There's no longer those two voices. At the end of every meditation, we're in a state of realization. And all we're doing with the practice of meditation is we're practicing so that we can be in that natural state again, 24/7 all the time. That's our natural home base, our natural home. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with this practice. So I want to say another thing. So the one big fear that seems to be the grand fear is fear of death. Fear of death. And what is fear of death? It's fear that my I is no longer going to exist. We've become so afraid of death because we're clinging to this small sense of I-ness that we think is the all and everything of who we are. My little bundle of things, my likes and dislikes, my little bundle of my wishes, my desires, my, who I think I am, this little bundle. No, we can't. I don't want it to disappear. That's terrifying. I don't want to die. That's terrifying. I'm terrified of not existing. I'm terrified. Right? Now, here's the thing, and we seem to forget this, but every single night we die. We don't exist. And not only that, but we can't wait. We can't wait to lay our head on the pillow and not exist. We love it. And if we don't get, if we can't get to sleep, we complain. Yeah. Oh, wow, I can't get to sleep. I'm sitting here with my eyes open and I'm really tired. I really want to go to sleep, but I can't go to sleep because nothing's resolved within ourself. There's no sense of being at home in ourself. We're not connected to our home base. So we can't naturally just drift off into non-existence. We have to withdraw from our sensory apparatus. We have to withdraw from the field of time. It's natural that we don't exist. It's natural. But when we're awake and our I-ness is active, then we fear it. But at night, when the natural urge comes over us to rest, we welcome it. So this is a simple thing to work from, to start overcoming this fear of death. And how do we overcome fear of death? Biology gives the answer. Okay. Fear vanishes by thinking, as it does even now. Wow, fear vanishes by thinking. And what is it that we need to be thinking about? Thinking is the forerunner of understanding. Understanding is the beginning of knowledge. Knowledge is the beginning of wisdom. So thinking is the tool for understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. And I have a little saying I want to share it with you, is that let me think about this for a second. Yes, okay, now it's come to me. Okay. A pound of information equals an ounce of knowledge. And a pound of knowledge equals an ounce of wisdom. So, there's a process there. And what is it that turns information into knowledge? It's thinking. It's our thinking about it. It's our reaching an understanding. And what is it that turns that knowledge into wisdom is when we really feel it. And when we really feel it, then we've imbibed that, and then our knowledge becomes wisdom. And this is how we overcome our fear. This is one way we can overcome our fear, especially this fear of death. So it's funny because we've reached a point now where we are not only afraid of dying, we're afraid of living. We're completely afraid of living. And look at the strange things we've created around ourselves to emphasize how afraid we should be. We've created all sorts of belief systems for ourselves. We've created an idea of God, that God is some, bearded gentleman out in the cosmos 10 trillion light years away that is overseeing things. And I better be a good person because, that God, he could send me to hell or punish me, And out of we've made up all of these things. We've made them up. All of our religions and things, these have evolved over, ideas about fear and power and control and our place in the universe, and everything has become a mishmash of ideologies, and it's made us afraid of living. We have so much guilt that we carry around with us, and even our conscience it's become so colored over by these religious fears that we carry with us, fear of, always, if I don't do the right thing, I'm going to be punished, fear of, that I have to repent and beg forgiveness, or my karma is going to get me. All this is all nonsense. And there are principles of nature. There's principles to living, but they aren't these human-based concepts that we've put in place that cause us to feel like we're controlled and manipulated by some external agency. That we, have to bow down to a God that we created. So we have to rethink, who are we as individuals? Well, Lology, let's come back to Lology. I'm telling you, I love Lology. Let me just put that out there, okay? So let's read this part again. So this first consciousness that's born, it looked hither and thither. Okay, hither and thither. Okay, so look, it became aware and said, I am, which was the realization. I exist. I am perceiving. Let's say it like that. I am perceiving. I am perceiving. The word I was created from that time onwards. It feared, and fear started from that time on. Fear is created from the illusion of estrangement along with I-ness. It then thought, there is none else except myself. Why do I fear unnecessarily? Fear disappeared. Okay, so now we know what we have to do. This is our path of realization. This is our path forward. Now we have some knowledge. Now this knowledge will become an understanding. We need to ponder this. We need to, experience this through our meditation. We need to apply this to our meditation practice. We need to think about this in terms of the cycle of wakefulness and sleep state, of existence, non-existence, Then we can apply that to the bigger picture of, yes, now I'm alive, I'm embodied, here I am, a divine being of this universe, the manifestation of the very source, I am that. And we need to be able to say that without fear or apprehension and be happy in that knowledge, be content in that knowledge. And then we'll see that all these other fears start to drop away. Now, here's what I want to say. We can't, I don't know if we can directly just overcome fear by praying that goes away or hoping that it goes away, or even applying all of this knowledge. It helps us immensely. It does help us immensely to have these understandings, okay? But I want to add in something uniquely human into this mix. What is the one thing that overcomes our daily fears? Fears that arise when we're in a situation that, we might have doubts and fears about. What is it that counteracts this feeling of fear? Well, it's courage. It's courage. So, courage is a very important and positive attribute, but we will never develop courage unless we're placed in situations where we need to have it. We will never develop courage unless we're placed in situations where we need to have courage. So I would like us all to ponder that and to remember that in the small fears of daily life, have courage. Let courage percolate up from inside you, and you'll find it to be a great inner strength. It's when we tap into the divine source within ourselves that's always present, with confidence, with determination. And all we need to do is grow that courage in our life. And that, combined with our understanding and knowledge, we will overcome all of these fears. Okay. So with that, my dear friends, we are going to meditate. We're going to return to Source. We're going to bask in that Source. We're going to welcome it. We're going to abide in that. get lost in it. We'll happily and cheerfully lose our existence for a while, and we'll come back whole, complete, and refreshed. So let's start. Please sit comfortably. And gently close your eyes, just as we do at night. And I want you to bring your awareness to the area of the heart. And I want you to rest on the heart. Rest on the heart in the very same way that you lay your head on the pillow at night and let go and rest. Feel the area of your heart is softening, welcoming. Feel a lightness there. Now let us rest on the source of that lightness, the source of softness, the source of love and light and wisdom. And feel that source is inviting you homeward. Thank you for making the time to all join together and be here today. And as I say every week, just stay with the heart, and I will see you next week. All the best.